Yeah, hi, I'm Paul Archer, that's paularcher.com. Just come back from a run here on Gloucestershire on a Saturday morning. Nice enough day. Should be watching the rugby, I suppose, France versus Wales. Supporting Wales now, but so disappointed with England's performance last weekend, being an English supporter, of course. Pretty dismal performance. Now, talk about dismal. What about salespeople that are having a dismal performance? Now, often it's down to the fact that they are having inner game issues. You know, it's in the head. I've seen it many, many times before. I'm sure you have as well. So a salesperson, for example, who's on a downward spiral is often having implications and issues because he or she can't get things right in their head. And we call this, particularly with telephone salespeople, we call this call reluctance. In other words, reluctance to pick up the phone and make a call. And if you're in the business of doing that to make a living, then it's not a good career move, is it really? Now, call reluctance, of course, is where somebody doesn't want to make the call because they are concerned that the call won't be successful, that they might be rejected, they might have a hard time with the customer on the telephone, or whatever. The fact is, these people don't make enough calls. You see it because they will take every excuse possible, won't they, to not make the call. Cup of coffee, quick cigarette, whatever it is. An email comes in, must do that email first. And this causes them not to get the numbers of calls in. Now, the biggest problem, or the biggest cause of call reluctance is not a lack of skill or ability, although that can be trained. It's the fact is that most salespeople who have call reluctance are trying to speak to unqualified buyers, unqualified people who blatantly don't want or need the product, and we spend 10 minutes or so on the phone trying to persuade them using all the techniques that we learn from books and tapes and things, and people like me who teach them, to try and persuade this unqualified person to buy. It's just not going to happen, and that's the biggest thing that causes call reluctance. So what is a qualified person? Well, quite simply, a qualified person has what we call MAN. M-A-N, that's motivation to buy the product, ability to pay for it, and the expertise to buy it, and the authority within the company, and the need, the N for the product itself, motivation, ability, and need. Now, to get round talking to qualified people only, because if you do that, then you're not going to have call reluctance, are you? Because if you get talking to qualified people, then they're going to have a motivation, they're going to have an ability and a need for your product. So, okay, you're not going to get everybody, but the chances are you're going to be successful. So how do you get people qualified then? Well, motivation, to a degree, you can only find somebody's motivation if you talk to them, can't you? You have to chat to them about what their issues are and things like that, their problems and pains. And if they've got big enough problems and they're business people, then they will have motivation. But people just don't buy things on a whim. Ability. To a degree, ability you can do before the call itself. Do you segment your market? Do you research your market? Now, I've got a list of about 15 industries here in the UK that are not being affected at all by a recession. So why don't you phone those people rather than the ones that are being affected by the downturn? Needs. Now, okay, somebody's needs you can really only find out if you talk to them as well, can't you? Little tip I learned this week, actually. I saw this salesperson use this technique, and he was talking to the customer, and he was chatting away. He asked a great question, then he pressed the mute button on the telephone. I said, what do you do that for afterwards? He said, it stops me interrupting and talking, he said. It makes them talk more. So that's kind of a little tip there. So when you ask great questions, just press the mute button, just instantaneously, just for a couple of seconds, and it'll stop you from talking and interrupting. Because it's only then that you'll find out the motivation and needs of people. So it's quite simple, really. Only talk to qualified people. Qualified leads, okay, fair enough. The lead comes to you, and you can only do some work on it, can't you? Do some research. But get talking properly to qualified people, and then you'll be more successful. It's quite simple, really. Don't waste your time on unqualified leads. You're not going to close somebody that's unqualified because they won't want the product. So there's a little tip for you then on this Saturday morning. But I am supporting Wales now. I hope they're doing well. We've recorded the rugby. I'm going to watch it a little bit later. So the next thing I need to do is not know the result for the rest of the day. Pretty impossible stuff, but there we go. Hope you enjoyed yourself. My name's Paul Archer. That's paularcher.com. I'll speak to you next week. Bye.